My name is Andrew. Helped found Speakable about 6 years ago, and I'm excited to present to you a lot of the stuff that myself and some other developers have been working on. Of course, our design team as well. So these features are meant to be for schools and organizations in general. And these general features are going to allow you to both collaborate as well as track your students' proficiency in any standard over time. So I'm going to go ahead and get started off with our organization dashboard. And again, this is going to be for organizations, but we'll cover the difference between those orgs and teams in just a bit. I know some people had some questions on them. Okay. Sorry, just a minute, having some challenges sharing. Okay. How do we do this? There it is. Okay. So what you're seeing here, this is a organization dashboard called the Bayside School District. So on our dashboard, you're going to see just an overview. And the main purpose of this, again, is for really administrators who have to manage a lot of teachers. It doesn't necessarily have to be a lot of teachers, but maybe you have different departments. Maybe you have a Spanish department. Maybe you have a French department. Maybe you have an ESL department. And you would like to divide them up into different teams. We'll talk about teams in just a minute. You can also just invite any member in your organization to both the organization dashboard as well as just being a part of a different team. So we'll cover that soon. And we have this students number here, which actually aggregates all of our students in the organization. So we use the students in the organization to track their proficiency levels, see their responses, and then, of course, track proficiency over time. So when you purchase an organization plan, you're going to be purchasing per student. And again, we'll cover that later on in the session. And you can see total assignments that your teachers have created. Now, what you see below is the most exciting updates we have here coming, which, again, this didn't exist. And I don't believe it really exists anywhere in the industry like we have it here now on Speakable. So what you're seeing here is reports that I've created for my organization. And what I'm doing is I'm sorting these reports for cohorts of students. So I have my ESL students grouped into the ESL student group here, and I'm actually tracking how many of those students have reached my target level of 4. We'll talk about how this gets set up soon, but I picked the WIDA proficiency standards and target level 4. And for my Spanish 1 group, which I set up, also I'm using the ACTFL standards for those, as well as the target level of intermediate mid. So, and I can see that 66% of those students are on track. So let's go ahead and dive into one of these reports, and I'll show you how we create them in just a minute. So at the top of my report, I'm going to see the average level for the last report that was generated. In this case, we're on this month, July 2025. Okay. Now my target level is intermediate mid. So again, most of my students are reaching that, but we can dig into more details in just a little bit. And in this particular cohort, I'm actually tracking 82 students across various classrooms in my organization. And I can see that 66% of them are, for this current report, at or above the standard target level. Okay, so we're using the at or above target level to really track proficiency as a group here. And like I said, we can really dig in to more details when we scroll down here a bit. So we did a lot of thinking about what's the best way to show proficiency for your students kind of as a group. It's a really big challenge, right? And one of the ways to represent that is a board that we have here. So you'll see kind of on the x-axis here, we have the standard level for, again, these are ACTFL proficiency guidelines. They're not exactly ACTFL proficiency guidelines, but they're mirroring those. So we have novice low, novice mid, all the way up to, distinguished and superior over here on the other end. And then what we're really getting is just a distribution and the students that fell into those buckets for this particular report. So the other way I can view this actually is this proficiency distribution chart that I have here. So I can see my students in the novice range right here. I can see intermediate, and then intermediate mid is my target for this particular Spanish group. And then I can see, how many students are above that etc. At or above target, of course, we're tracking all the reports on a monthly basis, so we can see this happen across time. And I can see the percentage of students that have reached or are above that target level for that particular report that was generated. In addition, kind of at the macro level, right, we can see some AI generated insights here. I won't read all of these off to you, but I think you get the idea, right? We're just identifying patterns for that particular group and trying to kind of pull out something that you might want to know about that group. When I switch over to the Insights tab, I can actually see my students, and I can see who went down from the last period or who's trending down, who's trending up. So I can see my list of students here, and I can see the changes from the last report. So for example, Jill here moved from novice high to intermediate low. And then I can also see who's stable here. So this is really just kind of a nice view to see who's going up, who's going down, who's kind of staying the same. Now, if I head back to the overview, this is not all we have. So I haven't gone into all details of how this whole system works, but what we do, Speakable kind of has a pulse now. And on a monthly basis, we'll be generating reports for each of your students based on the standards that you select, either organization-wide or within this particular report that we generated. So whether that be TELPAS or WIDA, or in the future, we'll introduce custom standards that you can even make yourself. We'll be taking those standards and applying them to your students' responses that they've given over the last period, generate a report for them. Those reports are accessible both to teachers on the organization and team plans, and then they're all aggregated here in this report. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Fiona Brown here, and I can see a couple of things. So this is really just zooming into the student now. And again, this is just at the July, the current report that we have right now. So we can see that she landed at novice high for speaking and writing and just overall. And then we can see how she's been landing on these proficiency levels over time. So I can look back in July and okay, so there's some inconsistencies going on here. She's been a little up and down, so she's probably not progressing all that much. Okay, now when I go down below, I'm going to see a report also generated for her. So we're looking at the overall performance, the strengths that she has, and then also areas for improvement for her to kind of, or for you to get an eye on where she can work on. So these are very specific things too. We're not just saying broad information here. So focus on vocabulary breadth and depth to reduce reliance on circumlocution. And then, preterite and imperfect tense she needs work on, etc. So this is a really nice way to just kind of get an overview of what your student's doing. Now, in addition, where does this information come from? Well, the AI will collect samples from the student and will actually use those samples to determine what the current level of that student is. So for example, in the evidence column, you're going to see these samples collected from recent reports, and we'll be able to actually justify the current level of novice high. So each of these will give us a sample from the students, and then just a way that this demonstrates how we can demonstrate a novice high level. So we also track this, of course, for speaking and writing. So you'll get evidence based on speaking and writing. If your student doesn't have any, for example, writing responses, it'll just remain undetermined. Okay. Last, my responses tab for these particular test students, I don't have responses in here, but this would be an entire history of all responses the student has given over time. So the first responses will be the most recently ones, but I can query and go back in time and search through additional responses. I can see the prompt they responded to, their response, an audio clip if there is one, if it's an audio response, and of course their written transcript if it was a written response. In addition, I can download and share these reports with the download report button. This will give you a nicely formatted report with basically all of this information, the summary, the evidence, and then their current levels according to the particular standard that they're using. Okay, so that's a general overview of these proficiency reports. again, very exciting. First time you're really able to just kind of set it and forget it in the system. And the really nice part about this is that this is not like taking, a standardized test where, we got to set up the students. We have to, take a day off of school and do it. This all just happens naturally by using Speakable. So teachers across your district or across your school, as they use Speakable, we're just gathering that data and we're analyzing it across time. And that's the beauty of this. It requires so little setup. And then finally, again, if I want to go to past reports, it's very easy to just navigate and see. I can see the distribution changing across time for this particular group. Now, this is super easy to set up, and I think that's one of the most exciting parts about that. Now, in order to do something like this, if you were to do this manually, imagine kind of the effort you'd have to go through to have your students to respond to this, listen to recordings, estimate the levels, come up with reports for them. All of this is now automated in our system, and I'll show you how easy it is to do. So we're just going to head back to the organization dashboard. I'm going to create a report name. So I'll just call this Spanish 2 because I already have Spanish 1. And here I'm going to have the drop down of all the different proficiency standards I can use. So I'm just going to select ACTFL again, but you get the idea. There's anything in here. And again, in the future, we'll have custom standards, which you can, or your organization, maybe they use something that's not on this list. You'll be able to build that. Again, that's not available yet, but will be in the future. What you're seeing here is actually available now for our organization plans. So I'm going to select ACTFL. This is Spanish 2, so maybe I want them to hit intermediate low this time. Of course, it's Spanish, so I'm going to select Spanish from the list. So here we are, Spanish. And then now, this is really nice because we have flexible ways of creating these cohorts for the report. I can either paste in a list of student emails that are in my organization. So if I have a very particular group that's spanning across a whole bunch of different classrooms and I just want to track them, probably really nice for ESL programs, I can just simply paste in a list of emails right here and I'm going to start tracking that group. Now, it's also really easy to do. Let's say I just want to track a single classroom or even groups of classrooms. I can do that by selecting the classrooms. And what I would do is just find the relevant classrooms for those particular teachers. So this is just a list of all my teachers in my organization. I can select the classrooms, and then I can say, I want to generate a report based on that. So I'm going to go ahead and create this cohort. Okay, it shows up right here. Here's my Spanish cohort. Now, what you'll have to do for this, obviously, data collection has to happen. So we do that at the end of every month. We collect the data, we analyze it, and we generate that report that you see here. So month after month, you're going to see these reports generated over time. Okay, so that's kind of just a broad overview of what you can do for proficiency report tracking. I think a couple other things to note is that these particular student reports will be available on the team plans again, which I'll discuss in just a bit. There's no... When I refer to the proficiency reports, I'm referring to these particular reports that are generated right here. Again, those will be available just for individuals, students on the team plans as well. Okay, so again, this is a kind of a beautiful combination of tracking data that teachers are doing in their classrooms, or I should say that what students are doing on an everyday basis inside Speakable, and really doing it kind of a natural way. It's not forced in the sense we're having them sit down and do this, and it's just really gathering that information over time. So obviously, the more students are using Speakable, the more response data we have for them to kind of get a better picture and estimate their proficiency levels according to your standards over time. So this is again, very powerful feature available to organizations.